What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a new X-Men game that has gone and been revealed by the lovely folks at Fantasy Flight Games. It is known as X-Men Mutant Insurrection, and it's a new dice game, and it looks really good. Now, I need to give a shout out to the lovely Josh Graining here. Lovely dude, if I'm mispronouncing your name, Josh, I do apologise wholeheartedly. But I mentioned to Josh earlier that I'd seen this and it looked really cool, and he went, oh yeah, that looks like it's based on Elder Sign, which is another kind of dice game which is made by FFG, so it would make sense, ladies and gentlemen. It would make an awful lot of sense, and I've heard good reports about that game. Now, we don't have a huge amount of information about the game now. There is going to be a live stream in a few days that we'll go through more, and obviously I'll bring you an update on this channel, but a really interesting game has been revealed, and well, when I showed you about Marvel Champions, generally speaking, the excitement on the channel was high, and then when I showed you Marvel Battleworld, the excitement on the channel was pretty high. So it seems like on this channel, the people watching it want to hear about new Marvel games. Seems rude to make you wait to hear about them. So what do we know? Well, it is a cooperative dice-based game for 1 to 6 players. Now, for me personally, that is delightful. I love solo gaming. That doesn't mean I don't play with my wife sometimes. I don't have friends around. I don't try and make my family play, etc. But when the family are in bed, I like sitting down of an evening and playing some solo games. Marvel Champions works perfectly. Journeys in Middle-earth works perfectly. I'm hoping this does as well. Although remember, anytime you have a cooperative game, you can always just play 3 or 4 characters yourself. It's absolutely possible. Now what you do is you build a team, you acquire allies, and you roll dice to complete missions. So clearly it's a dice-based game, which means there is going to be a hefty amount of luck, as is inherent in any dice-based game. We can expect that there are going to be a whole bunch of abilities, which will allow you to re-roll, add dice, remove dice, etc. Because, like, every dice game ends up having those kind of mechanics. But the fact of the matter is, we have got a dice game here, so you should be at least partially prepared for a little bit of the old luck. I'm sure you will cope. For instance, if we have a look at the Wolverine card here, it's got a skill that says once per round, you may re-roll any number of dice showing these particular results. Oh. Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that dice game have to have, quite frankly. If you don't, no. I mean, we can look at Shadowcat here. Once per round, you may spend a die to satisfy one requirement of the color that matches the threat tracker's position on the threat track. So clearly here you are able to spend your die to satisfy requirements rather than having to necessarily roll the right results. Or maybe I'm completely misreading that. Who really knows? Now, you do have to show down against a villain, and one thing that's very cool here is that they have told us there are 8 different plots, each with an iconic threat. Now, they haven't given us information about all of them, but they did give us 3 examples. They told us that it is going to feature the Hellfire Club, and that's basically talking Emma Frost and secret societies and influencing world events and being generally evil and lots of fun along those lines. Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants. Now this will be more familiar to a lot of people. Of course, Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants was the plot of the first the 2000 Bryan Singer X-Men film, the first X-Men film, so to speak. And that has made its way really into the public consciousness more than most X-Men stories. And the island of Genosha, which is basically, well, it's basically like a slave island where mutants got shipped off to and wasn't terribly pleasant, quite frankly. So it seems like they are digging into the comics quite nicely here. Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutant is low-hanging fruit, but it's exactly the kind we want them to pick. We would be very upset if that wasn't in the game, so that's there for the people who have knowledge of the X-Men primarily through the movies, and the Hellfire Club is kind of featured in the movies, but it seems like they are really going to be digging into the X-Men lore here. That makes me rather happy indeed. Now, we have dice and we have character cards with powers. We haven't seen a complete list here, but we see some. I mean, we can have a look on this image here. We've got Iceman, Magic, Storm, X-23, and Shadowcat. And you can see that we've got different colors here, we got different numbers, and we've got a skill for each of the characters. Magic, once per round you may spend one of the Helix results to turn up to 3 dice showing one, I want to say that's a Magneto helmet, result to any other result. So again, it's a dice game. A lot of the powers are going to rely on manipulating the dice. And X-23, after your mission is completed, you may heal 1 damage. So does that mean that the number there is a health counter? I'm assuming it probably is. We'll know more in a couple of days. There was actually a big montage shown of loads of heroes, but it went past incredibly quickly. We saw X-23, we saw Rogue, Phoenix, and then a nice clear look at Wolverine. There were a bunch of others as well. Jubilee is in there, but you have to essentially play it back extremely slowly to actually see all of the heroes. So if you want to, you will get a nice look at the roundup there. Now, one of the things that really interests me about the game is that they talked about building a team and acquiring allies, which to me would suggest, and there's 2 things that could be going on here. It is either all of the characters are up for grabs and you just acquire some extras, so 4-player game, you start with whichever 4 heroes you like, but you can grab extras as you go. Or it might be that they're split into essentially heroes and allies, and you start the game with one of the heroes, and you can acquire the allies as you go along. But it certainly seems like as you go through a campaign, you actually pick up other characters in addition to the ones you actually start the game with. That makes me kind of happy. And they did talk in the video about bonds and essentially having advantages to teaming up. So to team up, and most people when they think X-Men probably, or at least a lot of them, think fastball special. Grabbing Colossus and Wolverine and getting a bit of the old fastball special rolling. But there was a mention there that these bonds could be frayed. So potentially punishing you for teaming up if you do things incorrectly, which is kind of interesting to me. I need a bit more information about how that exactly will work. Now, we are told that you travel around on the Blackbird, so it's nice that the iconic vehicle is making its way into the game, and essentially you do travel around the world completing missions before you take down the villain at the end of the game, of the scenario, I suppose. We were treated to a nice look at exactly how the board sets up when you're up and rolling, and you can see there that you've got threats and you've got your heroes, and each of the heroes actually there does have 2 cards that kind of fit together, a larger card and a smaller card. You've got your pool of dice, your Quinjet with your heroes, bunch of counters and world maps and things of that nature. One of the things that does make me, and it really is about the only thing that made me a bit sad watching this reveal, cardboard standees. I don't really like the look of them, and they wear out fairly quickly. Here's the counter argument. They could replace them all with miniatures, and the price of the game would skyrocket. So I do understand why they're cardboard standees. That doesn't mean I have to love cardboard standees. I'm a miniatures dude. I'm clearly a card game dude. But when I play board games, I like having me little miniatures. But there are clearly good reasons for going standees over miniatures. No word on whether this game will expand in the future like so many of FFG's other offerings. Maybe they will. I mean, there are many, many, many heroes and villains in the X-Men universe, so clearly there are plenty of opportunities here for a bit of enhancement and expansion if they want to in the future. We were given a release date. It was a general Q1 2021. Hopefully at some point in the future we'll get something a bit more specific, and we were given a price of $55. As with all of these things, we are still in the middle of a global pandemic, so I do believe it is very, very fair to at least be prepared that it might slip. I ain't saying it's gonna slip, but just a quick heads up from me here that basically every single game in the world right now is at risk of slipping because of the whole COVID-19 thing. It's sad, ladies and gentlemen, but it's the way it is. So it is a new game, it is very exciting, I'm on board with it, it's definitely going to be something that I'm going for, but I'd like to know how excited you are and whether you think you're going to end up picking this up when it releases. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we can talk about this and a whole bunch of other games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun stuff. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.